I'm sitting on my living room floor in Portland, Oregon. I hate this rug. I hate this apartment. My boyfriend is sitting on the beige, beer-stained, weed-reeking couch. I don't know which one I hate more. Every day was the same cycle. I would wake up in the darkness of 4 a.m., wipe crust off my eyes, and put on leggings, sneakers, and a t-shirt. I would try to wash my face without turning on the lights. I didn't need to wear makeup. No one of importance would be seeing my face. Then I would secure my raincoat and helmet and begin to bike south. I would slip in a podcast episode to help me wake up. Stuff Mom never told you, snap judgment, hardcore history, anything to help me forget I was awake. The bright moon would make its last round across the navy blue sky. It hung over the city and the bridges that connect it. Another night is almost over. I would make it to the bakery by 5 a.m. Often the head baker was already there, neurotically counting cans of pumpkin. Although she was tinier than me, she had the attitude of a powerlifter. One wrong move and she would just gruffly shove me out of the way and show me how to slice a goddamn pear. Remember to pour the batter in the center of the crust. She dealt out few smiles and rarely made eye contact. It's taking you a long time to slice all of these strawberries. She stressed me out. You put cornstarch in a slushie, not directly on the berries. Every morning, I would walk into a freezer colder than the Ice Age. I would count out how many key lime pies were left, and they make anywhere from 6 to 12 more before 7 a.m. Every day felt like working in a factory. Systematized, organized, efficient pie baking. Not a moment to lose or crumb to forget. Those baking bloggers with their cute little aprons and delicate cake holders and playfully licking frosting off their faces were now a farce for all I was concerned. I would wear burns on my arms like badges of honor and would find pie filling crusted in my hair. As the day ticked on, I would slowly watch the sun rise and warm the city. I would sometimes try to slip an earbud in to finish a podcast episode, hoping the Miss Trunchbull of pies wouldn't see me. What am I doing? Why am I in Oregon? The Portlandia propaganda I had swallowed in New England tasted sweeter than actually living here. I didn't have any friends, I didn't have family. All I had was this boyfriend who rarely made me feel good about myself. What the fuck is going on? For the past 5 years, I had been in the culinary industry. I had done catering jobs, staged as a chocolatier, and written a feminist cookbook as a senior thesis. I thought this was the area I wanted to be in. But this job was draining the passion out of me like pouring water from a pot of boiled quinces. After a few months, I started to get a little itchy. Doubt had rotted my career like a bad apple. One day after work, filled with passive-aggressive comments and little cheer, I started biking home. It was pouring out. Another sunless afternoon. I hated biking in the rain. I hated being in a place that is so wet. I started crying as I pedaled up the slow slopes of Portland. Once I got home, I threw down my bike and ran indoors. I fell onto the carpet and just started sobbing. My boyfriend was sitting on the couch on his computer. He came over to me, wrapped his arms around my wet, shaking body, and asked me what's wrong. His typical pugnacious manner was softened by my tears. What the fuck am I doing with my life? This isn't what I want to be doing, but I thought it was, and I'm just so tired of not knowing where I am. For the first time, he didn't talk back to me or try to fix me. He just held me. Let's get out of here. I had a history of escaping, backpacking through Europe after college, then moving to Portland, often because I felt too confused about my direction. I thought that if I keep moving, I would eventually find the thing that gave me the life path that I didn't even know I wanted. I was so confused at the time. Later that evening, I clicked around on an international volunteer site I had used in Europe. It organized an exchange between hosts and travelers. For free room and board, travelers would have to work for 6 hours a day. It was the only way I could afford to travel for so long. And I loved sitting in the culture. The site had almost any place on the planet and type of work. When I backpacked through Europe, I was a cook on a meditation center in the south of France, worked on a bed and breakfast off the side of a mountain in Turkey, and harvested olives in central Italy. It was the best way to spend my time. I scrolled around, dreaming of all the different lives that I could live. And I noticed that there was a baking and chocolate making position in southern Peru. Later that night, we booked one-way tickets to Mexico City. I felt a sense of relief, like yes, another chance, another direction, a new adventure. Traveling always felt right. After I purchased our tickets and sat on that god-ugly rug, I kept clicking around on my iPad. And I looked at the GarageBand icon, one that I always thought was a waste of space. But I opened it and saw the timer and empty tracks fill my screen. And I thought, well, maybe I could make a podcast out of this. I really didn't like how poorly I had kept the wild and insightful conversations I had while I was traveling. What if I recorded them this time? Something about feeling adrift in my own life made me entertain this silly idea for a little longer than usual. Today on the episode, we're lost. Travelers will tell us stories about being disoriented in every sense of the word. We will lose important objects and get turned around, get lost in translation, or lose ourselves in an idea. As we try to find our way, we will see what being lost can actually do for us. Have your GPS out. We're going to need a good sense of direction. I'm Adrienne Bain, and this is Strangers Abroad. Here we go. Travel invites things getting lost. The packing, repacking, shuffling around, living out of a suitcase life makes it easier to lose items along the way. And it is a frustration like no other. You pull apart your bags and mentally retrace your steps. Oh, where did it go? I just had it. Your hand craves the smoothness of your cell phone or the edges of your credit card. But I think it's part of the deal when we travel. You have to sacrifice an item of importance to the travel gods for a safe journey. And travel blogger Crystal, creator of Castaway with Crystal, paid a large homage to satisfy the travel gods on her first trip.
I'm a well-seasoned traveler now, but at the time, it was my first ever big trip alone.
When Crystal was fresh out of university, she was looking for an adventure. As a young 22-year-old, she did the classic Aussie trek around the world. And you can't go to any hostel in the world without bumping into a horde of Australians who've been backpacking for no less than 3 years. To be fair, it takes them so long to get out of their country, they might as well make the most of it while they're gone. Crystal was ready for that adventure, and after 4 months of traveling through South and Central America, she found herself in a surfing town in Nicaragua with a couple of her other Aussie friends.
Back then in 2009, you didn't really access the internet in your hostel or with your phone or anything like that. You just had to go to internet cafes. And to go to the internet cafe in this particular small town in Nicaragua, we had to bring our passport to check in. I went there with only my passport and some money at that point. And I just sat my passport next to the computer in the internet cafe and then went about my business, probably adding some friends on Facebook or whatever, and then I got up and left the cafe. I think it took me about a day or two because you didn't actually need your passport to go out drinking or anything like that. I think I would have realised a lot sooner if I had have needed my passport to go to the bars. I probably would have realised almost immediately, but I didn't. So it wasn't until the next time I thought I might need the internet. Lucky I hadn't left, but I thought, let's go to the internet cafe again. I need to get some more stuff done. And then I kind of at the moment that I thought about finding my passport, I think I already knew that it was gone because I actually kind of remembered leaving it there. So it was kind of like, I had a look anyway, just in case, but it was all like in vain. You know, that feeling where you're just like, oh, I know it's not here. I know it's gone. And it had been 2 days at this point. So I didn't have much faith in it still being there. But nevertheless, the Internet was cafe was just around the corner. So I just got up and went straight there. And the passport wasn't there. My Spanish, of note, my Spanish at this point was pretty much none. So I was getting my friend to translate any Spanish for me, and she told me that the girl behind the desk didn't have it either, but that somebody else did. And we were like, oh, what does that mean? Like, how come somebody else has got my passport? Why couldn't they just leave it at the place that we would obviously come back to? So my heart is like racing. I didn't really know how I was going to contact these people. The translation was a bit rough. So I decided to go on the internet just to see what had happened. Anyway, maybe there was some information there. And I was hoping for that. And I logged onto my Facebook and there was nothing there. There was nothing in my emails. But I did have one friend request from a lady named Tracy. So I accepted the request. And she'd already sent me a message saying, I have your passport. We didn't want to leave it in the internet cafe because the person at the time was acting kind of shady. So we didn't really feel safe leaving it there. So we decided to take your passport with us. We're staying up on the hill at this other hotel really close by. We'll bring it to you whenever you want. So the conversation was really slow, obviously, because we didn't have telephones or anything. We just had the internet. But I just said, oh, we're staying here. Maybe you can bring it by at this time.
Since these were pre-wireless days, the communication between Crystal and her passport holders were a bit slow. She trekked back and forth to the internet cafe to check the messages that she'd been sending, hoping that the communication also doesn't get lost.
So they came to my hotel and I just met them out the front at the time that they said they would come. They were very organised. They did exactly what they said they were going to do. And I met this kind of older lady named Tracy. She was maybe in her 50s at the time, and her husband, Wayne. Two lovely Canadians who everybody knows are like basically the nicest people on earth. And they just must have thought I was an absolute idiot. Like, who just leaves their passport in a freaking internet cafe and then doesn't even contact them for 2 days after I've done it? Like, they must have just been like, these girls are an absolute liability. Nevertheless, we had a great chat, and they actually invited us to come and stay with them in Mexico. They had a condo, actually, in Mexico that they owned. So they said, when you get to Mexico, make sure you contact us and come stay with us. We'd love to catch up with you again and laugh about this stupid situation. And along the way, as we got a bit closer to Mexico, it started actually getting closer to Christmas as well. And Christmas is always really important to me. I like to do something really special for it if I can, and at least be surrounded by people who are awesome and that I can have a good time with. So I contacted Tracy and Wayne and I said, hey, you know how you invited us to say, how do you feel about